Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to tonight's episode of Morte D'Arthur. Tonight, King Mark must fight to the death against that fiendishly skilled knight, Sibelius, who will have his head in vengeance. Which makes for a very good start to the week, I think. So hello everyone. Hello Queen, hello Julie, hello Rosie, hello Karen. Welcome guys. Hello, how are you all? Hello Marissa. Welcome. Come in guys, come in. How was your weekends? I hope that you're all feeling all excellent and refreshed. We're here, second week of 2016 and we're still rolling, which is excellent. Hello Viper, hello, welcome. How are we all? Are we all feeling good? I hope so. I certainly am. We are rolling, Rosie. We are rolling, we are rocking. We're about to do some smiting. Hello Viper, how are you? How are you indeed? We are, of course, like telling the story of that evil King Mark, who will come and face, well, yes, David Bowie has passed away, Viper, but David Bowie didn't appear on these scopes nearly as much as we thought he might. So I think, although it is a loss for the rock and roll world, I think we'll be okay tonight. I think we can play some Bowie after. Hello, come in guys, come in. Other than Bowie passing away, I think we're doing all right. I think we are. I think we're doing just fine in this part of the world. Anyway, so we'll give it another couple of minutes, and then we'll launch into tonight's show, which will be good stuff. I'll certainly stick a smile on my face. It makes my Mondays nicer. Hopefully it makes your Mondays nicer as well, guys. So another minute or so, then I'll do the great thing. Do you know, I actually watch that over Christmas. I watch it every Christmas, I think, these days. But I did. I was magic dancing my heart out over Christmas and did do a little bit of magic dancing this morning. What's a gobbling king? Viper? You know, if Periscope was actually, you know, working a little bit faster, I'd tell you reminded me of the Babe. But when it's not going to go nearly fast enough to get the kind of repartee that we need, unless you guys do it in the comment section, that might work. But yes, brilliant fancy dress outfit. You know, one day I'll get some riding jodhpurs and go and wear those. Viper in that classic 80s children's film, probably the greatest thing the Jim Henson Company ever did, greater even than Star Wars, was Labyrinth, which introduced all of us as children to the sight of David Bowie's crotch in riding pants with a riding crop staring at us down the TV screens. And you know, I have to say, you know, there are probably young children all over the world like myself who had strange dreams after that film for many decades and could never quite understand exactly why we had recurring images of David Bowie's crotch in that film. Now, you know, in later life, we begin to understand what that was all about, and we envy it. We envy it greatly, and we wish that we were that gifted as he was. Gifted as a songwriter, I should say, in no other thing. Anyway, now that I've impressed upon you my lasting image of David Bowie in riding pants with massive Tina Turner-esque hair, playing with some glass balls. God, that was a good film. So much dirty innuendo in that film. Wonderful. The 80s should never have gone, as far as I'm concerned. You know, after the 80s, it all goes downhill. Die Hard on Labyrinth. You're sorted. You're sorted after that. film need never progress any further. But speaking of progressing, we'll progress now with the 90s. As no, Rosie, no, I can't. The 90s, the best parts of the 90s were the parts of the 90s where everyone still dressed like the 80s. I mean, like season 1 and 2 of the X-Files, where you've got Mulder and Scully typing on these ancient operating systems. You know, Jurassic Park, when the girl's there and she's working on the system. It's like, this is a Unix system. Like, yeah, it's a Unix system. Good luck finding one of those in 2016. It ain't gonna happen. Those were the best parts. You know, Unix security systems for Jurassic Park. Scully wearing coats with ginormous shoulder pads on them. Yeah. Anyways. Enough of that, ladies and gents. Let's get into tonight's show. We are, of course, telling that story of that knavish rogue King Mark. King Mark! King of Cornwall, who exiled the most faithful knight in all the realm, Sir Tristram. King Mark, who is hated by everyone in all of Britain. Folk who make fun of him for being such a cowardly man and such a treacherous knight. King Mark, who in his jealousy of Sir Tristram, who is beloved especially of his own wife, Queen Isolde, who has set off towards Camelot so that he might have a chance of slaying Sir Tristram. But as he has travelled in disguise, he has recently become known. For, whilst taking refuge in a priory, he was spotted by Sir Berlus. Sir Berlus, who was chased out of Cornwall after King Mark brutally slew his father. It's all going on in tonight's episode, ladies and gents. But Sir Berlus has said that while King Mark is a guest of Sir Tor at the priory, no harm will come to him. But as soon as King Mark leaves the priory, then will Sir Berlus chase him down and slay him, just as King Mark slew Sir Berlus's father. And so we begin tonight, ladies and gents, with King Mark facing off against Sir Berlus. Ladies and gents, this is a fight to the death to start the week. Why, thank you, Gina. That makes me very, very happy. Nice of you to come here. And I'm glad you think so of the show. Then, accused by Sir Berlus of traitorously slaying his father, King Mark was ashamed. But when Sir Lamorak and Sir Dinadan, who had travelled with King Mark in disguise, realised whom they had travelled with, then they were sorry for offering their friendship for such a traitorous king. And so, after supper, the men arose and went to lodging, and on the morn they arose early. And King Mark and Sir Dinadan rode together, and 3 miles from their lodging they met with 3 knights, and Sir Berlus was one of them, and the others were his cousins. Sir Berlus saw King Mark, and then he cried on high, "Traitor! Keep yourself from me. For you know that I am Sir Berlus." "Sir Knight," said Dinadan, "I counsel you, leave off at this time, for King Mark rides to King Arthur, and by cause I have promised to conduct him to Arthur, before I might ever part from him. Now, I do not love him, and fain I would be rid of him, but I have sworn to do so on my word." "Well, Dinadan," said Sir Berlus, I regret that you will not part from him. And so, do your best. And then he hurled at King Mark and smote him sore upon the shield and bore the man clean to the earth. That was seen by Sir Dinadan, who readied his spear and ran to one of Sir Berlus's fellows, smote him down off his shadow. And then Dinadan turned his horse, smote the third knight in the same way, who fell to the earth. For Sir Dinadan was a good knight on horseback. And there began a great battle, for Berlus and his fellows held themselves together strongly upon foot. And so, through great force did Sir Dinadan and King Mark have Berlus to the earth, and his two fellows fled. And had it not been for Sir Dinadan, King Mark would have slain Sir Berlus. And so Sir Dinadan rescued that knight of his life, for King Mark would have murdered him then. And then they took their horses and departed, and left Sir Berlus lying there, sorely wounded on the ground. And King Mark and Sir Dinadan rode forth 4 leagues, until they came to a bridge, where there was a knight who waited upon horseback, armed and ready to joust. Lo, said Sir Dinadan unto King Mark, yonder there is a knight who will joust with us, for none shall pass this bridge unless they joust with that knight. It is well, said King Mark, for this joust falls upon you. Sir Dinadan knew the knight well, for he was a noble knight, and fain he would have jousted. But he had liever King Mark had jousted with him, and yet King Mark refused to do so. And so Sir Dinadan might not refuse King Mark, and then either man dressed their spears, and then they rode together and smote, and through fine force Sir Dinadan was smitten to the earth. Lightly the man rose and got on his horse, and required the knight would do battle with swords, and he answered and said, Fair knight, as at this time I might not have ado with you any more, for the custom of this passage is such. Then was Sir Dinadan passingly wroth, that he might not be revenged of the knight. And so he departed, and in no way would that knight tell his name. But ever Sir Dinadan thought he should know him by his shield, and that that knight should be Sir Tor. Halfway through tonight's tale, ladies and gents, and thanks to the aid of Sir Dinadan, who has sworn to bring King Mark to Camelot, King Mark has managed to fend off against Sir Berlus, though he would have killed Berlus if it was not for Dinadan holding him back. For King Mark is no chivalrous knight. Now those 2 knights ride onwards once again. And so, as they rode by the way, King Mark then began to mock Sir Dinadan. And he said, I thought that you knights of the Round Table might not in any way find their matches. That's an interesting question, Julia, as to Gina, as to whether these things are embellished. The tales are written in Middle English. Just to dive in, the tales are written in Middle English. I'm translating them on the fly into English. Sometimes I do a little bit of embellishment onto them to make the fight scenes a little bit more exciting. But mostly this is as it was written in Sir Thomas Malory's stories. That said, when I go and do my recaps at the start of each episode, then there's full-on embellishment, and I improvise it and retell the story in my own words. But as much as possible, I try to tell the story as it was written by Sir Thomas Malory, with a few tweaks here and there, just to make the sentences read better. Malory, for instance, has a habit of repeating nouns again and again in sentence after sentence. So I do a bit of tweaking on the fly, but nothing too serious. I believed you knights of the Round Table might in no way find your matches in battle, said King Mark. You say well, said Sir Dinadan, and as for you, on my life, I call you not one of the best knights, not by any means, for it seems that if you have such a despite of me, I require you, joust against me, King Mark, and prove your strength. Not so, said King Mark, for I will not face you in battle in any way. No, when Tristan was naked, it was no embellishment there. That was all true. But I require you of one thing, that when you come to Arthur's court, you will not reveal my name to anyone there, for I am so hated. It's a shame to you, said Sir Dinadan, that you govern yourself so shamefully, for I see by you that you are full of cowardice, and you are a murderer, and that is the greatest shame that ever a knight might have. For never a knight being murderer should have worship, nor never will he ever had. For I have seen that if it was not for me holding you back, you would have slain Sir Balus, who is a better knight than you. And he is a better knight than you will ever be. And thus they rode forth, talking all the while, until they came to a fair place, where there was stood a knight, and they prayed that the knight might take them to their lodging with him. And so, at the request of that knight, they rested themselves there and made themselves at ease and had great cheer. For all errant knights were welcome to him, especially those of King Arthur's court. And then Sir Dinadan demanded of his host, of what was the knight's name that kept the bridge. Why should you ask it? Said the host. For it is not long ago, said Sir Dinadan, since he knocked me from my horse. Ah, fair knight, said his host, thereof have ye no marvel. For he is a passing good knight, and his name is Sir Tor, the son of Ares Lavatia. Ah, said Dinadan, was that Sir Tor? For truly so ever did I think so. And right as they stood so talking together, they saw come riding to them over a plain 6 knights of the court of King Arthur, who are well armed at all points. And there, by their shields, Sir Dinadan knew them well. The first was the good knight Sir Owain, the son of King Uriens. The second was the noble knight Sir Brandiles. The third was the son of Lecure hardy. The fourth was Owain le Adventurous. The fifth was Sir Agravain, and the sixth was Sir Mordred, brother to Sir Gawain. When Sir Dinadan had seen these 6 knights, he thought to himself that he would bring King Mark and force them to joust with one of them. And anon they took their horses and ran after these knights well a 3 mile. And then King Mark was aware that they all sat about a well, and ate and drank such meat as they had, and their horses walking, and some tied, and their shields hung in divers places. Lo, said Sir Dinadan, Yonder are knights errant that will joust with us, King Mark. God forbid, said the king, for they are 6 and we are but 2. As for that, said Sir Dinadan, let us not spare. For I will go first, and therefore fight the first knight if he will make himself ready. And when King Mark saw him do so, as fast as Sir Dinadan rode toward them, King Mark rode towards them as well. And so, when Sir Dinadan saw that King Mark was coming, he let the spear out of his rest and threw his shield upon his back, and came riding to the fellowship of the Table Round, and slowed his horse, for he saw that King Mark had turned then, and ridden away in cowardice. And then those 6 knights, seeing Sir Dinadan approach and King Mark flee, they welcomed Sir Dinadan as a fellow knight of the Round Table, as all did that fellowship. Thank you, Penguin. I'm glad you think so. And there, ladies and gents, we end tonight's tale. 6 knights of the Round Table having appeared in the plain, Sir Dinadan have gone towards them and have made as if to fight them and asked King Mark for his help. King Mark, having turned his back and fled in fear like the coward he is, ladies and gents. And we'll find out tomorrow just what happens to King Mark and those 7 knights of the Round Table now, when they are forced to fend off against each other in battle. It's all kicking off at smiting o'clock, which is excellent. That makes me very, very happy. I look forward to doing that. My favourite poet, oh, that's a tough one. T.S. I think I'm going to go for T.S. Eliot. T.S. Eliot, I think. So I go for T.S. or do I go for Edna St. Vincent Millay or do I go for Petrarch? Or John Donne? I'm going to call it a 4-way tie between Eliot, Donne, Petrarch and St. Vincent Millay. I think that's going to be my 3-way tie for tonight. And of course, coming up in a couple of minutes' time is my poetry show, Poetry Live, ladies and gents, is about to start. And do I do it? I am, Gina, I am. And I should actually get back to reading some of my poetry on Periscope. I should. I need, next week I might treat you guys to some more Fog Rolls Island on Periscope. It's been a while since we did any Fog Rolls Island, and I shall have to come back and do some more. Just someone who loves writing, Julia. Just someone who loves writing and telling a good story. My talents are very much focused on storytelling. Yes, up next week. My favourite penguin, actually, a few years back, I wrote a children's story about Captain Ho-Ho the penguin. Captain Ho-Ho is captain of a lightship, and Captain Ho-Ho lives with a wizard in a little town on the south coast of England. So Captain Ho-Ho is my favourite penguin. There. See, bet you didn't think I actually had a proper answer to that. Captain Ho-Ho. All the way. Followed by, if I could probably do like my top 3 favourite penguins. My favourite, I'm not a fan of iambic pentameter. If I'm doing Icelandic poetry and alliterative poems, I will follow the meter quite strictly in alliterative poems. Because you kind of have to with sonnets. I think can be a bit freer to play. After all, most sonnets in translations, don't follow strict rules of rhyme or meter anyway, and you have to realise when it comes to things. I do follow to syllables exactly. Syllables I will follow, but one of the things that you've got to realise with something like a sonnet is sonnets were originally written in Italian. They are an Italian verse form. Italian is as a language is much richer in its rhyme than English, and so once you understand that the language that these poems were originally written in wasn't English, then you realise that actually following through their strict rules in terms of rhythm, in terms of meter and rhyme, actually doesn't quite work and is more of a hindrance than it is a benefit. What you need to do, I think, is to find a way of writing the poems in English that matches the English language and fits that to a rhythm and a form that is comfortable. But hello, Lars. Hello. Yes, I'm a big Keats fan. Although it gets a little bit melancholy at times. Doing an entire show of Keats can drag. But anyway, I'm going to come off now, ladies and gents, for a minute. I'm just going to close this scope down and open up the Poetry Live scope tonight on Poetry Live. And what I'm actually going to do, as my little tribute, because he was a wonderful lyricist. And after all, what are songs other than poems with lyrics? I am going to go and read you all some David Bowie lyrics. I'm going to read David Bowie for Poetry Live actually tonight as my little tribute. David Bowie poems read live for Poetry Live, ladies and gents. Yes, Queen. Yes, way. I will read. Okay, we can run the requests through Poetry Live. Listen, guys, it'll be like a minute. So I'm going to close this scope down, open up Poetry Live. Oh, we can use it. I will do Wild Eyed Boy from Free Cloud. But we'll do your requests in the show, ladies and gents. Requests to come in the show. David Bowie for Poetry Live. Coming up.